Welcome to the Faith Forum, a series of talks with leading thinkers, best-selling authors, business leaders, philosophers, artists, and theologians of our time. We're so happy you've joined us, and we hope this podcast offers food for your spiritual journey. From Christ Episcopal Church in Charlotte, North Carolina, I'm the Reverend Chip Edens, and this is the Faith Forum.
Habitat Humanity, now Habitat Humanity International, is a not-for-profit organization dedicated to building and renovating affordable housing for families in need. Its origins trace back to 1942 with the establishment of Koinonia Farm, which was an interracial Christian community in Americus, Georgia, founded by the farmer, biblical scholar, and I would say prophet, Clarence Jordan. In 1965, Millard and Linda Fuller joined Koinonia Farm after leaving their successful business in Montgomery, Alabama, seeking a life of Christian service. Together with Jordan, they developed the concept of partnership housing, where those in need of adequate shelter work alongside of volunteers would build simple, decent houses. These homes were constructed at no profit and no interest were charged on the loans. Building costs were financed through a revolving fund called the Fund for Humanity, which sustained homeowners' house payments and also came through donations. In 1973, the Fullers applied this model internationally in Zaire, aiming to offer affordable yet adequate shelter to 2,000 people. After 3 years of successful implementation, they returned to the United States, and in September of 1976, they convened a group of supporters to discuss the future of their vision, leading to the formal establishment of Habitat for Humanity International. As many of you know so well, the organization gained significant visibility in 1984 when the late U.S. President Jimmy Carter and his wife Rosalind took their first Habitat work trip to New York City. Their personal involvement, of course, brought national attention to Habitat's mission, which sparked the increase and expansion across the nation. And over the years, Habitat for Humanity has experienced a remarkable growth. By its 25th anniversary, tens of thousands of people, were volunteering for Habitat, and more than 500,000 people were living in Habitat homes worldwide. As of 2023, the organization operates in more than 70 countries, continuing its mission to provide safe, decent, and affordable housing for all. To put things in a local context, it's a joy, which we'll do today, to welcome our remarkable leader, Laura Belcher, who joined Habitat for Humanity for the Charlotte region in 2014. Since 2014, the organization has seen a 400% increase in families served through new homeownership, critical home repairs, and financial education programming. Laura has led the organization through two strategic mergers in the past 4 years, expanding in Iredell and Gaston counties. 2023 provided a career highlight as Habitat Charlotte region hosted the Jimmy and Rosalind Carter Work Project, building 27 homes in a week with 3,800 volunteers. Much can be said about Laura and her leadership. She spent, prior to coming to Habitat, her first 20 years of her career in corporate roles in Arthur Andersen, Wachovia Securities, and Transamerica. She was a CPA, graduated from the College of William & Mary, and spent 9 years in not-for-profit work as CFO, COO of the Arts and Science Council. And we are thrilled not only to have her here today, but to renew our multi-decade partnership with Habitat for Humanity. Welcome, Laura.
Thank you. Thrilled to be here. Thank you.
So we just talked a little bit, Chip just talked a little bit about the origin story for Habitat for Humanity International. Let's kind of zoom down in a way to Charlotte and talk about Habitat for Humanity in Charlotte. And it's now, of course, the Charlotte region because you've expanded. So how did Habitat get started here for those who weren't here 40 years ago?
So we started in 1983. And it was the vision of 7 churches to come together called the Jeremiah 7, and cross denominations, to look at the housing crisis and to do something and put action behind concern and words. And so the Jeremiah 7, of which you all were one of the 7, came together and founded Habitat for Humanity in 1983. So we have celebrated our 40th anniversary and are moving into our 5th decade of work and service, and continue to be fortunate that we have relationships with our founding partners.
And I believe we have some of the original parts of our leadership that are here today, or those who have been a part of the leadership and have been involved in Habitat. If you'll please stand. You have been involved in the work at Habitat.
I didn't get going early.
Well,
It's
if
okay.
you've been involved, let's
All
stand
Habitat
right now so we can
volunteers
acknowledge
present,
you.
please
All of our
stand.
volunteers who have been involved in
And there's
leadership.
A bunch in the peanut gallery up there.
And then Fred Pascal, I think, has probably worked on every
And Jim
single one.
Smith.
So,
Grigor
Yeah.
was on the original.
John Krihor,
That's amazing.
yes.
And so we've been with Habitat for 41 years now, I guess, and we are about to begin our 37th home, not counting parts of other homes that we've worked on, but the way we've been counting, it's our 37th, and we'll start that in just a couple of weeks. And that's pretty amazing. That's a whole village.
That's an amazing legacy,
Yeah.
and the lives that have been changed because of your investment is really amazing.
Talk a little bit about the housing continuum. We participate in that in a number of different ministries, but everything from like an overnight shelter or emergency shelter to home ownership. So I think when we hear about housing affordability and homelessness in Charlotte, we don't stop to think about the breadth of that. So
Yeah.
if you will, talk about that.
Yeah, no, a continuum is really the way to describe it, right? So we have members of our community that are unhoused and in need of that service and care. And then from there, you might have folks that need temporary housing through single residency, single occupancy kind of things. Then you move into more transitional housing, then affordable rental, maybe through vouchers or lower rent. And then you move into affordable home ownership, and that's the space that Habitat works in. And so we're supportive of all of it, and we need more care and concern across the entire housing continuum. But Habitat's kind of our niche is in the affordable home ownership space. And we advocate a lot for rental and the policies to support renters. And somebody asked me why we do that when we really work in home ownership. And I said, well, every one of our homeowners is a renter. So we care about the entire continuum and really want to look at where can we be impactful in home ownership.
You've spoken about the continuum. Within that continuum, I'd love to hear your reflections since you began. What have you seen that maybe is not obvious to the rest of us in this congregation, in this community, about what has happened and what's really happening with affordable housing? I guess what comes to mind in 30 years, and is certainly the way that housing has become so much more expensive. But I know it's much more complex than that. So,
yeah, what we're seeing is over the last several years is the confluence of multiple factors all at one time. So costs and materials are more expensive, land is more expensive, labor is more expensive, and one of the reasons we all love to live here is because this is a great and thriving community, and lots of people want to move to our city. And so our population growth is outpacing the creation of new units. Even though it feels like as you drive around town, there's new construction everywhere, and that who's going to move into those apartments, there is not enough creation of new units of every price point for the population growth that we are experiencing. And so what that does is that drives the prices up everywhere because of the demand. So we've got a supply and demand mismatch. And as a country, we have underbuilt since the Great Recession. So since 2008, the United States has underbuilt every year since in the residential space. And so this is why it's a national crisis along with a local crisis.
Do you think our city has a kind of unified vision for what to do in anticipation of continued growth?
I think that we are, the good news is that we're talking more about it. I think affordable housing is when we do any kind of community poll or survey about the concerns of residents, affordable housing comes out as number one or number two. And so we're having good conversation about it. I think specifically with the city of Charlotte, in November, we had the referendum that increased the housing trust fund bonds from 50 million to 100 million. So we are doing things to address it. But I think it's a big puzzle, and there's not one silver bullet to the answer. So, we're investing a lot more in rental because we need those units, and that's really important. We're just now, I think, seeing some of the conversation turning more intentionally to home ownership. And so with the increase in the housing trust fund bonds, you saw City Council talk more about home ownership and is setting more of those funds aside for home ownership, recognizing that is really the best tool that we have to create generational wealth that can be shared and can really break those cycles of generational poverty.
Joan, there's a line that's been used that you can't build your way out of the homeless
Right.
and affordable housing crisis. I wonder your thoughts on that.
Yeah, we agree. We're going to build as many units as we can, but we know that we can't build our way out of it. And so we do build new units. We are committed to preserving existing units. So on an annual basis, we do about 150 critical home repairs. Those are not necessarily Habitat-built homes. They're homes that folks have lived in 20, 30, 40 years, and they're in a low-income situation, usually a fixed income. The average age that we work with is 69. And so what we're doing is going in and addressing deferred maintenance for folks that can no longer afford to maintain their home and returning that home to a safe and decent place so people can age in place. So we're adding units, we're preserving units so that we don't lose those out of inventory. We're also, working in this space of advocacy, trying to do property tax relief for seniors, making sure that there's appropriate opportunity for renters to have access to units and that there's not discrimination against low-income families. All of those things. So it's new units, it's preserving existing units, it's advocating, it's trying to look for new financial tools to make things more affordable. Quite honestly, it's also looking at wages. Right, some of the reason that we need to have affordable housing is some of the wages that are being paid in the community no longer keep pace with the cost of living.
I think Axios did a study. This is several months ago, but they said a person you have to work 3.4 minimum wage jobs to afford the average apartment in Charlotte. 3.4 full-time minimum wage jobs in order to afford our housing.
Yeah,
in the city.
the wages necessary for housing, and that's why you end up with people doubling up and tripling up, and you have overcrowded, right? So we've got, when you've got housing instability, it can be cost burdened, it can be substandard, or it can be overcrowded, where you've got too many people living in one unit, and low wages contributes to all of that.
Right. You mentioned advocacy, and I'm just going to jump right in there.
Okay.
I happen to have these beautiful postcards, and the upper left-hand picture is Affordable Housing Now. These postcards are from our diocese, and we invite you, I'm going to hand them to Laura, and we invite you to take one or more of these, write to your state legislator, and tell that person what you want to see happen to help people have a safe and affordable home. And there's more details to it, but I'm going to give those to Laura. And if you're interested in becoming an advocate, which I highly advocate, then make your voice heard in Raleigh.
Okay.
So over this history, you just talked about a lot of things going on now. How does that compare to when Habitat first got started in Charlotte? I mean, none of us were there at that time, but in terms of the landscape of housing and the efforts to try to make that better for people, what's the difference between now and then?
Yeah, and when I think about Habitat and I think about our business model and how we're addressing some of the needs of the community, the big thing that has changed for us is I describe it that we used to be a home builder, right? So we would acquire a lot or a couple of lots in an existing neighborhood, and we'd go in and we'd build a home. It's really, really difficult in Mecklenburg County to find a lot now. And so what we end up doing is buying parcels of land. So we're no longer building homes, but we're actually developing neighborhoods. And so the complexity that comes with that when you go and you buy 4 or 6 or 9 acres of land, now you've got to put water and sewer and sidewalks and really do all of that infrastructure. That's something that we never had to do, right? So we now do that. We work, to make sure then that we're developing a neighborhood. We're thinking about the amenities. Do we need to put in a walking trail? How close are we to other amenities that we can take advantage of? What are the assets that are close to the neighborhood? And then we look at, based on the concentration of homes, should it just be habitat homes, or should it be a mix and have some habitat and some non-habitat? So we're having to do all of that as we consider kind of the placemaking. And when we used to build just a house in an existing neighborhood, we didn't have to do any of that. Right. So this gives us the opportunity to be intentional about things, but it also is a little bit more complicated business model than it used to be.
It is.
When was that transition, would you say?
It's really been in the last couple of years.
Okay.
So, we have just finished a great neighborhood out on Mooresfield called the Meadows at Plato Price, and that's a 39-home neighborhood. And so that was really, we did a couple of smaller ones, but that was really kind of, the proof and the completion there. It's where we held the Jimmy and Rosalind Carter work project in 2023 was to help build that neighborhood. So we've got 39 homes there. We put in the streets. We've got 2 cul-de-sacs so that you can picture kids playing and riding their bikes in the cul-de-sacs. There's raised garden beds because that's what the family said that they wanted. We've got a playground for the kids. So really a full scope neighborhood that was intentionally designed. We have several others now going forward as well. We've got 13 different neighborhoods of different sizes coming up, 2 that are much larger. And so this is where we're doing mixed income. We're going to do an 80-unit townhome development. And with that concentration, we want to have more broad, varied income. And so half of those units will be habitat families, and the other half will be a higher income level. So that we'll have mixed income and the ability for kids and families to experience all kinds of different occupations and families.
So tell us about the back office of all that. I mean, it's no longer a couple of people that come together and say, let's go get the building materials and the nails, and let's all meet on this block and do it until it's built.
As we have grown, we have needed to add the resources to the back office to be able to handle the complexity. So a couple of things in recent years, right? We've, if I think back historically, when I got to Habitat 10 years ago, land acquisition was kind of a part-time, one person did land acquisition. Now I have a department of 5 that buy the land and develop it and do all the infrastructure. So, a change there because of the complexity. Because of the volume of units that we're doing, we needed to expand our assets. And so about a year and a half ago, we got a new warehouse. Al can tell you all about our new warehouse. So we have the ability now to store the materials to build a home. Through COVID and the pandemic, we experienced a lot of supply chain interruption. Now we have a warehouse that feels a little bit like walking through Lowe's, where our site supervisors can get the materials they need. And we can also do more panel building, and so that's a big piece of what we'll be doing in the future, where we'll actually be assembling walls to our builds in our warehouse and then taking them out on site and standing them up. It will bring us greater efficiency to be able to do more units quicker.
Who negotiates your land deals?
So we have a land acquisition director on our staff. So Jennifer Morrell does that, and she does it brilliantly.
And you're competing in the market with everybody else, or
we are. So that's one of the when sometimes I'll talk about myth busting, right? So one of the myths is that all of our land is donated. It is not. I wish that it was. Some of it is, and that is terrific. But we are competing and out on the market. Oftentimes we'll try and find a benevolent seller, but that doesn't always. So we're in the market looking for land. And we also buy homes. We also buy and flip homes. So if we can find the right home at the right price and the rehab need is at the right price, that's another way that we can get a Habitat family into a home ownership. And again, we're preserving more of housing inventory for affordable housing when we do that.
Well, one other question about the development. It's, again, a wonderful lens that you're offering us from the traditional model to this, to community development neighborhoods. When these neighborhoods are built, tell us about kind of working with the constituents, and at what point does Habitat kind of let go? And is there a point at which you say the neighborhood is built, the community association is built, and you let go, or do you continue to maintain relationships?
Yeah, good question. So a lot of the work that we do with our families, when someone applies to be a home owner with us, we spend a lot of time on the front end with them, through financial education, through spending time talking about home maintenance so that they can be prepared and thrive as a homeowner, engaging them in the neighborhood that they'll be moving into. So we spend a lot of time on the front end, and through the construction process, they have the opportunity, in most cases, to work on site and put in some time that way. And so then we work with the homeowners in a homeowners association, right? So when we're in a neighborhood, and we coach and prepare folks for leadership of the homeowners association. So we stay involved all the way through all of that. And then really what we're working towards is a little bit of self-sufficiency. So we invite families to stay engaged with us after they are in their homes, but we don't require it. Right, and so we do have lots of opportunities for families to stay engaged with us through workshops and an annual picnic and educational opportunities, and we encourage them to share life milestones with us and everything else like that. But we don't require it.
And so tell me about letting go, and are there covenants that are put in place that prevent a future developer from coming in and acquiring and flipping it?
Yeah, absolutely. So with every home that we build, when we sell it to the family and we right-size the mortgage for what the family can afford, that's another misnomer. Some people think we give homes away. We work with our families and sell homes, but we right-size the mortgage. And each of the families will sign a deed restriction with us that has a couple of criteria. One is that they will stay in the home and not rent it, right? So that we're focused on home ownership. We want them to stay in that home, but we don't force them to stay there forever, right? So if they need to move, they want to move to a bigger home, or they need to move to Tennessee, or whatever the case may be, they can sell their home, but we have a first right of refusal to buy it back. And so we buy most all of the homes back so that we can, again, keep them in inventory. We'll buy it back, do some light rehab, and then sell it to another Habitat family. Keep it in the family.
That's right.
One of the strategic directives that Chip mentioned is our work in East Charlotte. And up till now, up till recently, I guess I should say, most of your builds have been like north and west sides of Charlotte, I guess.
Yes.
So talk a little bit about that expansion into a new area.
Yeah, we have historically had a commitment, and we will keep a commitment to kind of the West Boulevard corridor, and we have been buying land historically in largely neighborhoods that are mostly rental, where we're trying to anchor some home ownership into transitional neighborhoods. And as we looked at kind of the map of where we built over the years, we saw the concentration, and we felt like what we want to do is make sure that we are scattering the opportunity for housing across the community a little bit at a broader and wider berth. And so we have been acquiring land on the east side of Charlotte, and a little bit more on the northwest part of the town, so that when we kind of map out everything, and then with our expansion into Iredell and Gaston, we've got projects that are now in Mooresville and Statesville and Gastonia. So again, it's scattering out where we build. And so we wanted to have more intentionality and more diversity of places for potential homeowners to live. And so we're excited that we've got more land and more opportunity in the future in East Charlotte.
What impact does that have on what you build?
It really, we've got the opportunity now. We've really been working hard to diversify some of our housing options. And so with the traditional, you saw some of the pictures, kind of our traditional one-story single-family home, we will still build that, but we have broadened what we can build, and we have now two-story homes. We also have duplexes, triplexes, townhomes, so we can build up to about 6 two-story attached townhomes. And so really what we do is we look at what fits into the neighborhood, what's the right use of the land from the cost of the land and density. And so we really try and mix things around, right? And so with these multiple neighborhoods that we've got coming, some of them are townhomes, some of them are single family. We've got one right now that's going to have 8 duplexes and 4 single families, so kind of scattered and mixed. So we're trying to be creative in the housing product that we bring to the neighborhoods.
Mm-hmm.
And then that in turn probably has an impact on your volunteer opportunities or what you contract out.
It does. So 2 stories are a little bit harder to, safety is our number one thing on the work site. So the 2 stories, we don't really want a lot of folks on a 2-story roof, so we contract out the roofs and some other things. But as we are growing, we've got more units that we're doing, so we might have less volunteer opportunities on some units, but we are doing more units. And so in aggregate, we have more volunteer opportunities.
Say something about your financing model right now.
Yeah.
We all know just general mortgage rates are north of 7% right now. How do you secure third-party financing, and tell us about the interest rates and the length of those notes?
Yeah, so we have been working with a variety of financial partners and really are fortunate that we have some great financial partners, mostly mid-sized, smaller banking institutions, credit unions that are willing to work with us to provide below market interest rates for our families. And so where the market rates right now are close to 7, our families are doing 30-year fixed loans at 3.
Wow.
So it's a way to get our families in so that they can afford the mortgage. And so we're really pleased with the generosity of those financial partners.
Mm. And how many partners do you work with? Are they
right now we're working with five different financial partners. Anybody that wants to expand that, we'd be happy to work with more financial partners. So 5 different financial organizations. We kind of do a round robin of families working with different organizations.
That's wonderful. 3%.
Yeah. That helps a lot right now.
Yes, I would say.
So you've talked. Oh, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
You've talked about the families. How do they get selected, and what is that process like? How long is it? And how do they finally get the key to their home?
Yeah, I love handing families the keys to their home. It's 3 criteria, so it sounds simple, right? 3 criteria. The first is a need for housing. In Charlotte right now, that is the easiest bar to meet, unfortunately. A need for housing is demonstrated by either paying too much, so you're cost-burdened, overcrowded, or substandard. So if you've got a need for housing, that's the first criteria. Most of our families, it's first-time home buyers, oftentimes first time in their family, right? So they don't have a role model that they can look at. Mom owned a home or grandmother bought a home. So it's usually a first-generation home buyer, first-time home buyer. The second criteria is an ability to repay the mortgage, right? Because we are working with financial institutions and they are taking out a mortgage. They go through, we do loan underwriting, so we have underwriters on our staff that are preparing the families and securing the loans. So we look at income, we look at the debt to income ratio. So we look at the financial capacity of the family. Families that we work with are earning between 40% and 80% AMI. AMI is area median income. And so kind of our sweet spot, if I translate that into real dollars, is about a $60,000, $65,000 income. So, we're working with families that are hardworking. These are often folks in the healthcare industry, community, municipality workers with the city or the county, the school system, folks that are working at the airport. Good, steady jobs, just a little bit lower paying jobs than the rest. And then the third criteria is a willingness to partner with us. right? And so that means a willingness to work the program, to attend the workshops and the classes, to come out and build on the job site, to share information willingly with us and prepare for home ownership. So those are the three criteria: a need for housing, an ability to repay, and a willingness to partner.
And what's the average size of a note?
Right now, the average first mortgage is about $180,000.
$180,000. And how many people are in line right now to work with you?
So we actually artificially constrained the pipeline because several years ago when we ended up with a backlog that we felt was not actually healthy and didn't provide hope for families. So we right now are getting about 70 families a year into new home ownership. And so we have a backlog that is a little bit more than 70 families. And so we're kind of, as we are building more units, we're bringing in a couple more families into the pipeline. But we are artificially constraining it because the need is so immense. And then with the critical home repair, it's about the same kind of process, right? Is that we'll do about 150 projects a year. It takes about 6 to 7 months from the application approval to the completion of that project because of needing to go in and scope the project, and we work with the city and the county, and they come in and inspect the home as well. And so it takes a while to get all of that set up, and then we do that project. And so we always need about 6 months worth of folks in the pipeline with that project as well.
Mm-hmm.
And as that time is passing, the families that have been selected participate in sweat equity.
Yeah, so that's where they're going through their financial awareness and education classes. They're coming out on the site, so they're investing their hours in a variety of different ways. If there's a neighborhood association and they know, then they going to neighborhood association meetings before they move in, just to get familiar with their neighbors.
I wonder if we could shift to the hurricane recovery.
Yeah.
And obviously we were all watching very closely what was happening and have been, but I'm just curious for you in the role that you were playing.
Yeah.
As you were watching all this destruction in the aftermath and looking at it now, I mean, what was coming up for you as one who is in this space?
Yeah, the damage from Hurricane Helene in western North Carolina is really almost uncomprehendable, and we're seeing the impact of natural disasters across the country. That is adding to the housing fragility, right? Is feeling like we're making progress in one area and then losing units in another place. When we were watching it from Charlotte, our team really was touched and impacted by watching the loss of houses, and so we felt that we, as an affiliate, a blessed affiliate, that we needed to do something. And so we have done a couple of things, but we have now announced a commitment to work with Western North Carolina, specifically in Avery County, because so much of Charlotte has residences in Banner Elk and Linville, and most all of those residences are perfectly fine, but the rest of the community was impacted. I was actually in Avery County on Friday and spent the whole day. I toured 6 different houses to look at whether or not they could be repaired. 3 of them cannot, and so the loss of houses is going to go up as we start looking at how to repair residences and realize that they're damaged beyond repair. But there are several that are repairable, and we're going to start doing repairs. And so we are investing resources with labor. So we're going to have a site supervisor that is working specifically up in Avery County to coordinate volunteers and to do repairs, as well as some materials and other things. The other thing that we're working on right now out in our warehouse is we are building 9 tiny homes. Our homes on wheels that we'll be taking to Avery County for folks that have lost their homes or can't live in their home while it's being repaired, or need somewhere to live while their home is demolished and rebuilt in its entirety. So we have 9 of those homes being built right now in our warehouse.
What do you see as the role of the mobile home these days for for families, and particularly in Western North Carolina, where there's such a need to put people in places, given the vast amount of loss and immediate loss that took place.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a need for a variety of different solutions. I think mobile homes, the RVs, all of those are good solutions. Some of those are more temporary, some of them are more long-term, but I think modular homes, I think we're going to see a lot more modular activity in all residential building as we're looking at trying to create more efficiency in the home building process. And so I think mobile homes, RVs, all of that is part of the solution set right now. The number of homes throughout, there's 23 counties that were impacted by Helene. And just trying to get to some of the properties to actually see the homes is a challenge. And so
do you have an estimate of how many homes were lost in terms of the overall housing stock?
So I'm focused mostly on Avery County, so I apologize. I don't know across the 23.
That's a big enough place to be concentrated on.
Avery County alone, it's thought that it's about 120 residences that are lost. But then again, I saw 3 that need to be added to that list. Yeah. And so I think it'll be more than 120 homes that have lost and more than 600 that need repairs. And so we're just going to work on Avery County.
Excuse me. We've been putting out the opportunity to help build the tiny houses.
Yeah.
So talk to Laura and me about that. When do you think the opportunity will be there for crews to go up and do critical repair or beyond that, I suppose, to the ones that are up there?
I think we'll start probably in February, early March. The challenge will be weather. Is that some of the work we can do? It's indoor work. It's a matter of trying to get from here to there if there's ice and snow.
Right.
So we're trying, and then I think as the weather turns, we'll have a lot more opportunities.
Well, before we move to Q&A, I just want to say how grateful we are for your incredible leadership. Thank you. Yes, I mean. And as we have reflected on the 30-plus year relationship that we've had and the incredible generosity the parish has shown, and we just want you to know that we are in it with you now and for all the years to come. And as a part of our Transforming Hearts campaign, it's my pleasure to be able to, I'm going to get Joan to announce, but I just want to say how important your generosity is and what happens when we come together and we give to a common effort. It allows us to make remarkable gifts and critical moments in the life of our city. So, Joan, why don't you?
So, thanks to your generosity, we will be giving Habitat for Humanity of the Charlotte region $250,000 towards all of the many projects and directions that you have just heard. So, we are so grateful.
Thank you. Thank you. That's amazing, and that all of the years that we've been working together, we often talk about the homes that we build. But I think it's really more important to think about it by the families that have been transformed through new homes and the lives that are stabilized through critical home repair. And so your generosity allows families to thrive. So thank you.
Thank all of you.
Our privilege. Yeah.
Thank you all very, very much. All right, let's we'll take some questions from our audience.
Laura's got a microphone. Laura's got a microphone to run around.
Good morning and thank you. When you select a parcel for a neighborhood, is it already near to a school, to shopping centers, to that kind of thing, or does it have to fill in, and how long does that take?
Yeah, so when we look at land, we have kind of a rating matrix, right? And so we will look at it, and we'll look at it, where's the closest food, where's the closest transportation, schools. So we look at all of that and then score it. And if it scores too low, then we don't think it's a good parcel, right? So we need to make sure that we're putting families where there are other assets. If it scores high on all of those, it's probably land we can't afford, to be honest, right? So there is a compromise, and so it doesn't usually score high on every aspect, but it might be across the street from a park, but a little bit further away from a school, right? So, but we look at all those different criteria and have a weighting and look at it. We do not put land, we don't put housing, as we look at expanding into the Gaston County and Iredell County, we also make sure that we don't put housing on land that is so far away from something that it doesn't have the infrastructure, doesn't have water, doesn't we are sensitive to making sure that as we look at other parcels of land that might be a little bit less expensive because they're further away, we still want to make sure that we've got assets.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
We have a question over here. Mm-hmm.
I'm just curious about the overall kind of macroeconomic factors that are causing the underbuilding since 2008, if sort of those bigger macro issues.
Yeah, so I think there's a couple of things. One is through the recession, a lot of that was a housing mortgage financial crisis. You had a lot of people get out of the industry and not come back. So a lot of home builders left the industry. We have thought somewhere around 800,000 construction jobs are open in the U.S. right now. So there's not enough labor, which is part of what's driving costs up, especially in the skilled trades, right? So electricians and plumbers, HVAC, all of that is adding a dynamic to that. And so all of that is playing together to make it expensive.
Other questions? Come.
Hi. Are there programs in place to help people who have purchased homes if they have a change of life and are unable to pay their mortgage? Are there programs in place to support them through that?
Yeah, so when we work with our families on the front end, what we ask and encourage them to do is if they have something that changes in their financial situation, that they make us their first call, right? We can work with families. So if they've lost a job, we've got partnerships for rapid re-employment. If they've got a medical bill, we can help with some of that. And so there are a variety of things that we can bring to bear if they will call us and talk to us on the front end. We want to be good partners with them. And so we have a history of being able to do that. We also, to the extent that there's a need, we can also refinance a mortgage if we believe that that's the right thing to do.
Do you have anybody on your staff of support communicating with the children or let's say the children are in a low performing school with their social worker in the school, Cities in School, any of your workshop to help support the children of these families?
Yeah, so we encourage, and connect families with different nonprofits in town, and then it's at their discretion to use those and to partner with them. I will share, we've done some research with UNC Charlotte and the Urban Institute around academic performance of Habitat kids. And what we know is when they move into their Habitat home, they are usually performing below their peers, which is not all that surprising because they've come out of some kind of housing instability. But then they get into housing stability with their home, and not overnight, but within 4 years, they're outperforming their peers.
Wow.
And so that stability of housing does make a difference, right? Yeah, thank you. Yeah. And so, and you're part of that, right? You're helping to stabilize, and when kids know where they're going to sleep and they're not in an overcrowded situation and they feel safer, their academics improve. Their absences go down, and their suspensions go down. So that's cool.
Good morning, Laura. Thank you for being here today and for the great work that you're doing. If you could speak to a few more of those metrics, like the one that you just touched on, that highlight the efficacy of the work that you're doing, whether it's the dollars that are contributed and what percentage of it goes to overhead or impacts that it's having on families' lives.
Yeah, this is where the CPA in me comes out. Someone's asking me to quote numbers. I love that. I think the question around mortgages. One of the things that I will share is that we in the last in the 10 years that I've been there, have probably only foreclosed on 10 mortgages, right? Like we just, we work with our families and are proud of that and the efficiency in the financial model. We do have the ability, because of the work that we're doing with our financial partners, we are kind of an efficient return on investment from a housing perspective, in the sense that we build the homes and then we sell them and we get a mortgage back. Now, we don't make money like most residential builders would want to do. They want to build their homes and then they sell it for above that and make a profit. We build our homes and sell it for less than what it costs, and then have to fund that gap. But we are getting about 2/3 of the cost back through the mortgage, and then we can reinvest that and get 2/3 back, and that's kind of how our business model works. We look at the metrics for nonprofits on how much is being invested in overhead and general and administrative expenses versus programming expenses, and we're proud to say that our general and administrative costs are less than 10%, and then we have some fundraising costs, so more than 80% of every dollar is going directly into programming, which is a nice programming ratio. So I think, if I can talk more about all the assets and the numbers if you'd like, but just there's a couple of there that I'll toss out for you.
We'll take one more question. Al?
Now, any question that Al might have, he should be able to answer.
No, I was just curious about, we used to brag about when we built 3 houses, there was support for something in South America or something. Is Habitat still doing something like that with regard to contributing to home ownership in another country?
Absolutely. And so you heard earlier that Habitat International operates in 70 countries around the globe. Most of the countries across the world are supported by the U.S. operations. And so what we do is we tithe, the traditional concept of tithing. And so for unrestricted dollars that we receive, we tithe. And we support Habitat El Salvador, Habitat Guatemala, and Habitat Cambodia are the 3 that the Habitat Charlotte region supports. And in fact, in March, I'll be going to Guatemala to build houses there. And so we are pleased and proud to say that this is a global ministry, and you are part of a global ministry, and that working to solve the needs of housing here locally in Charlotte, now in Western North Carolina as well, and across the globe. It's part of, I think, the beauty of this ministry.
Well, Laura, without a doubt, you and your team are absolute heroes in this community.
Thank you.
And we cannot thank you enough for your willingness to continue to lead on these critical issues. And to all of you, I hope that when you go home today, that you'll give thanks for the home that you live in. And when you put your head on your pillow and say your prayers, you'll also keep in mind that you, through your generosity, are helping people tonight at the very same time that you're going to sleep. You're helping some other family do the very same thing in a moment when it's really cold outside, when families have equal, if not more, stress than you do. They're safe and they're stable because of your generosity. And I'm telling you that because I want you to feel your generosity and know that you're a part of something extremely important. And there's another reason, because I want you to give more. I want you to give more and to go deeper and deeper. And I want us all to go deeper and deeper in our generosity at Christ Church so that we can expand what we are able to give every single year to the life-giving work of bringing hope to Charlotte and elsewhere. Thank you from my heart, and thank you for your leadership.
Appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you for listening. We invite you to subscribe, leave us a 5-star review, and connect with Christ Church Charlotte on social media. If you'd like to attend a Faith Forum live, visit christchurchcharlotte.org/Faith Forum to view dates and details of upcoming talks.